In other news we're tracking for you, over 40 community radio stations across the country are facing closure. Now we're told this is due to a lack of licenses, funding and debt. The National Community Radio Forum says an emergency meeting has been held to try and come up with a plan. Let's get you the latest on the story now. We're joined from ICASA by spokesperson Paseka Maleka and Chairperson of the National Community Radio Forum, Garth Damerell-Moss. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming into studio.
Thank you.
So we were discussing this a little bit before we came on, and there was some confusion over the number of radio stations that are at risk here. Perhaps let's get your response, Paseka, on that issue as ICASA.
Okay, thank you so much. We've noted the fact that the NCRF is saying 43 radio stations are due for closure or have been closed down. But by the end of last week, when we checked with our compliance unit, they confirmed that the number is actually 29. And then we also did a roundup again yesterday just to make sure that the actual number was. And they confirmed to us that it is still 29 community radio stations that are facing closure. Well, of course, some have been shut down already, and then others have been informed or notified of the intention to shut them down.
So officially, Garth, 29 facing closure or already being shut down. What's the latest that you know?
Yeah, look, we were told by ICASA when we telephonically contacted them of 43. We have the list that was written down, but it's not really relevant. 43, 29, it's a lot, whichever way you look at it, you know. And we basically feel that ICASA has really overreached here. ICASA has been coming under a lot of threat. We know this. There's people inside that tell us these things. That senior management have been telling them, you've got to flex your muscles. You've got to show community radio we're in charge. Paseka the other morning on Good Morning South Africa even said, we don't want to seem as if we're toothless. And it's almost a knee-jerk of a reaction from them that they've now got to really crack the whip on community radio. Now, we're just saying that 29 radio stations being shut down has such ramifications on the community. And it's not as if they couldn't be fined or some other censure could have been taken against them. Then to take their license away, it deprives the community, first of all, of the voice that they have to speak, and it also takes jobs away. Yeah. While the president is struggling, grappling with trying to employ people, ICASA is now adding to the woes. Almost 1,200 youth amongst everybody. The youth are going to be affected. 1,200 youth now unemployed because ICASA chose, and I do want to make a point of this, they chose to shut the stations. They're going to say they were forced to, they weren't. Clause 7 says that they can shut down if you don't have a license, but Clause 11, this is of the Broadcasting Act, Clause 11 subsection 9 says they can grant an extension if there is compelling evidence why they couldn't give it in on time.
Paseka, your reaction to that, is this just a mere show of force by ICASA when there were other alternatives?
No. This is not a show of force. I mean, it's a legal requirement. If you don't have a broadcasting license, you cannot operate a broadcasting service. It's just like that. So each and every broadcaster that is on air as we speak now, like eNCA right now, I mean, you need to have a broadcasting license. All the stations that we're talking about do not have that, the required broadcasting license.
Were there other alternatives, though, to just a blanket shutdown? I mean, given, you know, we all talk about the numbers, our employment numbers and our jobs numbers in the country. Certainly we can't afford to have another 1,200 young people out of a job.
Well, that's true. I mean, in as much as ICASA regulates in the public interest and in as much as we appreciate and support the role that community broadcasting service is playing within the society, it's also important for community broadcasters to comply with the regulations and to comply with the law. I mean, it's a compliance issue more than anything. And then what is also important for community broadcasters is to start to operate in a way that shows that they are really serious about the sustainability of the community broadcasters. In terms of the law, the community broadcasters have got six months within which to apply for renewal of the license. That is before the expiry of the license. I mean, if they don't take steps within that period to ensure that they notify the authorities that they still want to continue, and then come after the license has expired, I mean, it's a problem. The reason why we're closing them down is because technically they do not have licenses. I mean, we are here, Michelle, we are talking about the very scarce resource here, the use of the radio frequency spectrum. So,
Paseka, I'm going to stop you there for just a second. We seem to be struggling with your microphone. We're going to get the technical team to fix that and come to you in the meantime, Garth. I mean, is it a case simply of community radio stations they're not playing ball. Is there a particular reason why these licenses would not have been renewed?
Look, Michelle, we're not saying that the community sector is innocent, okay? They are at fault. And we're willing to accept it, that they are at fault. We're not saying that they're not. But the censure is too harsh. It really is too harsh. Considering that the Broadcasting Act does give leave to appeal for an extension. And it's also contentious whether or not community stations need licenses, because Section 6 of the Act, and he pointed to your station now that you have a license. That's true, but you're a commercial entity. Section 6 of the Act clearly states that a license is not necessary for not-for-profits, and all community stations are not-for-profits.
Garth, as we wrap up this conversation, Paseka, just a parting shot from you. Is this up for appeal?
No, there's no appeal for this. The stations have been closed and they don't have licenses. What's going to happen moving forward is the fact that all those frequencies are going to be advertised in an invitation to apply and allow other people, and even the same stations, they can still apply. It's just that we are going to allow everybody to start submitting their applications, and then we can give it to the best applicant.
Right.
And then in terms of the exemption, just quickly on that one, in terms of the exemption, the specific section that Garth is talking about, it talks to the electronic communications networks, not broadcasting services.
All right, gentlemen, I'm afraid we have run out of time. Garth, one last comment.
No, that was a lie. It does speak specifically, and he has the Act in front of him. It speaks specifically to broadcast frequency, that they are exempt. And also one other thing he's not telling you is, yes, they will advertise those frequencies, but it will take 2 years to grant that license. So for 2 years, those communities will suffer.
All right, it appears we have a debate on our hands that may require a lot more time that we need. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we are out of time.